Find a new way to live in Toronto's coveted Forest Hill neighborhood. Foray by Canderel blends thoughtful, livable suite design with refined finishes and more than 50,000 square feet of amenities, including wellness spaces, work-from-home areas, fitness facilities, and places to unwind. A modern, elevated community crafted for the life you've earned. Your next home starts from $599,000. Learn more at live@foray.ca. That's live at FORET.ca.
That's what it sounded like at Niagara Falls on the night of May 20th, where for 15 minutes, starting at 10 p.m., both sides of the iconic natural wonder were illuminated by bright blue light. The occasion? Canadian Jewish Heritage Month. But the story of how that happened and why begins with one Toronto man, Len Pearl, the son of a Holocaust survivor. He spent months writing to government departments, provincial legislatures, city halls, and the organizations which oversee some of Canada's most recognizable landmarks and bridges. His goal was simple: persuade them to light up in blue to mark Jewish Heritage Month, and to do it on May 20th. Parliament officially designated May as Canadian Jewish Heritage Month back in 2018, but Pearl worried that in recent years, especially since October 7th, public recognition of the month has faded amidst rising antisemitism and growing tensions linked to the war in the Middle East. It's a subject Pearl knows well. He spent years researching Jewish life in Canada for his new documentary film, Search Out the Land, which explores more than 370 years of Jewish contribution to this country. Although these days, he says, many Canadian Jews have begun questioning whether they still feel fully at home here.
And I felt like I wanted to do something that would give people confidence and joy and feel like, you know what, and pride in Canada, because this is our country. We helped build it, and we're not going anywhere.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Friday, May 29th, 2026. Welcome to North Star, the flagship podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, made possible thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Gronowski-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. This isn't the first time Canadian landmarks have been illuminated for a Jewish cause. Major national campaigns previously lit buildings and monuments in yellow in January for International Holocaust Remembrance Day. But this year hits different, with Jewish organizations focused on combating anti-Semitism. There was no major national campaign around Jewish Heritage Month. So Pearl launched one himself. He calls it We Belong Here. And despite the obstacles, the campaign succeeded. 9 landmarks in 6 provinces said yes, including Niagara Falls, the Peace Bridge between Fort Erie and Buffalo, the Toronto sign outside City Hall, Province House in Halifax, and several provincial legislatures and bridges. On the night of May 20th, though, not everything went according to plan. In Winnipeg, the blue light bulb at the Manitoba legislature burned out. And in Montreal, they lit the Champlain Bridge red and white because the city's women's hockey team won the championship, but both promised to do it later. Still, Pearl considers his campaign a good start to making an even bigger splash next year. And he joins me now. Welcome.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks for having me very much. And happy Jewish Canadian Heritage Month.
And now we're unveiling it as some of the monuments have been lighting up in the last few days. First of all, tell us what your project was.
I noticed that there wasn't a lot of, I could say, things going on to celebrate Canadian Jewish Heritage Month. There wasn't a lot of government participation, and I noticed a lot of buildings were being lit for other Heritage Months. And I said, okay, I watched that last year and nothing was being done. And I said, okay, something needs to be done. So I decided to start on my own and reach out to various legislative buildings, various Canadian buildings and landmarks across Canada, working on a documentary about the Jewish community of Canada and knowing the history and knowing that we were instrumental in helping to build Canada from the very beginning, from the first settlers that came to Canada all the way back in the 1630s. That's how far back we can trace the origins of the Jewish community of Canada, actually, today, the Jewish community of Canada. A lot of people are looking at our government and saying how that they feel abandoned. And they're looking at seeing the hate, the rise of anti-Semitism in the country. And I felt like I wanted to do something that would give people confidence and joy and feel like, you know what, and pride in Canada, because this is our country. We helped build it and we're not going anywhere. And to all the haters out there that want us to go, I said, you know what, having the buildings and landmarks across Canada illuminate to celebrate Jewish Heritage Month would be a great way to make that statement that we are here. We helped build this country. And this is an important month, an important occasion to remember.
Now, Jewish Heritage Month is in May. Our listeners know because we've reported on it since 2018 when Senator Linda Frum and Michael Levitt, the former Liberal MP from York Centre, had an unanimous adoption in Parliament to establish this. And it kind of got a lot of, hoo-ha, frou-fra at the beginning. And then, of course, we had COVID and then we had October 7th. And it kind of got a little bit political, maybe a little bit, but our community's busy fighting other battles. So when you got this idea, were you worried that people would be like, ooh, we don't really know if we should, how this was going to be received by the authorities when you approach them?
Well, I was a little bit concerned, but something that I've learned when I was working on one of my films is that there's a lot more people out there that love us and like the Jewish community. And so I took that at heart and said, there's got to be good people out there that are going to approve the lightings across Canada. And so I took that with confidence, saying, yeah, I'm going to hit some people that probably don't want to do it. And maybe they want to do it for the wrong reasons. But I was confident that I would find the right people that would want to do it for the right reason. And I did. Across Canada, I reached out to legislative buildings. I reached out to Canadian landmarks. And for the most part, it took time. And that had nothing to do with anything except it just takes time. I didn't realize how much time. I figured I just
like red tape time.
Red tape time. And I figured you just send out an email, it's done. No, this took months and months of work and follow up and getting to the right people and following up, etc. I do have to say, though, there was one issue, and I have to be very frank about it, and that was Toronto City Hall. That was the hardest one to get them to approve, the lighting of the Toronto City sign. If it wasn't for James Pasternak and Mike Cole, and maybe others I don't know about, we wouldn't have had that sign lit. I believe, in my opinion, that was really hard. There was every single excuse. They weren't moving ahead with it. To me, I think there was something there, in my opinion. It took a lot of follow-up and pressure to get it approved, and I thought that was really strange. But we know what's going on down in City Hall, and I try not to get too political, but I think that some people might have been getting involved. Some people involved that decision did not want it to be approved, in my opinion.
Well, we know that the flag raising for the State of Israel is now canceled after this year. The City Council voted to stop all flag raisings to sort of be neutral. But this is Jewish Heritage Month, and so it's not Israel. It's not Gaza. This is Canadians who built Nathan Phillips Square, which is the first Jewish mayor of Toronto, named after him, is right in front of City Hall.
This is a non-political thing. This has nothing to do with what's taking place around the world or Middle East. So when people deny it, or people don't want to acknowledge it, then one can only conclude it has to do with anti-Semitism or something's wrong. Plain and simple.
Let's talk about some of the places that did say yes. I'd love to hear. Take us on a journey coast to coast of where you went with your emails and what has happened and what's going to happen.
So we want to start all the way in the East Coast, and so we started out in Halifax. That was our first one, actually. They said no problem right away. They're very helpful, very supportive. The Halifax legislature lit up on May 20th for Jewish Heritage Month.
Absolutely. We have pictures from our roving photographers, Linda Magic-Suissa and Yoram Abisrur. So they went down for us to take pictures. So absolutely, it was beautiful.
And then we have the Samuel de Champlain Bridge, which is now lighting up on May 25th.
That's in Montreal.
That's in Montreal. Yep.
All right, we need to explain because we had a correspondent in Montreal looking at the bridge. But coincidentally, there's a hockey playoff on the same night.
Yeah,
and
so we
what
got bumped,
happened?
and we got bumped. But I understand that because most Jewish Canadians would want it to get bumped anyways for the hockey teams
Go
and
Habs.
everything. Yeah,
And Go Victoire, which is what happened. The Montreal women's team
yeah.
lit up last night for the Montreal women's team. But the night before, my correspondent, Lynn Herzog, took a picture of it in blue from her house on Nuns Island, and it was blue, but who knows if that was on purpose.
I don't think so. They were very apologetic and they were very understanding, and I was understanding, I guess you could say. I totally get it. And so that they moved it to 25th. I believe it's the Louis Riel Bridge in Winnipeg is going to be lit in blue on May 25th. That's just the only day they have. They have so many illuminations of their buildings taking place that they're totally jammed. So they gave us May 25th.
What about Ontario?
Toronto City Hall lit their sign in blue. A friend of mine, Dan Levy, was down there. And then the big one is Niagara Falls. And I got a lot of emails from people. It was online. You could watch it. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. But
I saw like red, white, orange, blue, green before 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Then
So
what happened?
at 10:01 approximately, the Canadian side and the U.S. side lit up in blue for 15 minutes. That's what they do. There were fireworks, but that had nothing to do with Canadian Jewish Heritage Month.
We'll take it.
We'll take it. That was very nice.
What about the bridge? The next, down the
Peace
river.
Bridge. The Peace Bridge lit up in blue. Also on the Canadian and the U.S. side to celebrate Canadian Jewish Heritage Month, which is great.
Between Port Erie and Buffalo, just in case. All right, so then keep going west.
Manitoba, and so that's going to be on the 25th. And then I hope I didn't miss anything. And then also in Victoria, we're still following up to see what happened last night with that. That's supposed to be the fountain. I think that's what they do. So we're just following.
What about the Alberta legislature? Was that?
Oh, yes. Can't forget beautiful Alberta legislature lit up too for Jewish Heritage Month. So it was great. Some places couldn't do it, and I totally understand.
Coming up, hear what Len Pearl plans for next year.
So for next year, we have already, and I can't say, we already have 10 new buildings and Canadian landmarks that want to illuminate. I think we're going to get it over to 30, and I think we're going to do a much bigger event. This just kind of came together, months and months of work, and I think next one will come back together. We had a number of Jewish organizations that pushed out to their constituents about all the lights being lit, and I hope people, when they saw them, they took pride and they understand that we're here. We help build this country, and no one's going to force us to leave, period.
There was others that said no, and you had some interesting exchanges. What about the CN Tower? Drake got to light it up.
Yeah,
I'm not Canadian Jews.
I'm not Drake, even though I think I sing, but my wife and kids think I sing horribly. So
they literally. What was your experience with them?
They were a little bit harder. I don't think there's anything. I think they just said they don't light up for Heritage Months, that they have what they have in their system, they have in their system. They do light up for Holocaust Remembrance, I believe. They do light up for Hanukkah. I think, the Jewish New Year, they light up for it. So I just think that they're just jammed with illuminations. I will follow up with them next year. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't give up. I actually, after they said they couldn't do it, I emailed her multiple times. Eventually, he didn't get back to me after the multiple times, but I will follow up with the person in charge and see what we can do to get it on the calendar for next year. I don't think there's anything wrong on their part.
We are taping before, but I want to, now that we're talking, I was just told today that Victoria's legislature is having its first ever recognition of Jewish Heritage Month, thanks to the new member of the legislature, Nina Krieger, who was elected, a former Holocaust Museum director, and Rabbi Dan Moskowitz from the temple in Vancouver. And so that is something new. And also, City of Vancouver had a sort of little ceremony in City Hall. I also know that some of the municipalities have proclaimed, including the city of Toronto, issued official proclamations for Jewish Heritage Month. We have to give a shout out to a Montreal human rights activist, Marvin Rotran, who his campaign is to get that to happen. You're doing the lights outside, he's doing the proclamations inside. When you hear that these efforts are happening, what do you want the community to do? I mean, people don't really go out and watch it or anything. So what do you want maybe people to do next year?
Individuals can make a difference, whether it's emailing individuals about what's going on with the rise of anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, or if they're not happy about things. Every individual can make a difference. We are at the point now where it's all hands on deck. And, talking about all hands is, as a community, what the rabbi did, what I did, what individuals who are starting their own grassroots organizations that are rising up and speaking out on everyone's behalf. What they're doing is, see that? We're all fingers. Okay. Individually, these fingers aren't strong, but together, it makes a strong fist. And that's what we need. We need more individuals to step forward, because the large organizations, they are all hands on deck. They are so busy fighting on our behalf. And the smaller ones that are rising up are also busy. No one has all the time in the world. This took me months to do.
For free.
With pleasure, with pleasure. And I sent it out to the Jewish organizations. I said, get it out to your constituents. I don't need to be acknowledged. It wasn't about me. Some did. That's fine. I wanted them to get it out to others. So next year, what we're planning to do is we're trying to figure out how to get a more online campaign going. I'm setting up a website about it as well, called We Belong Here. Not asking for any money. I'm doing it myself. It's called We Belong Here. This is our country. We belong here. And we're going to have different online lighting, as you can see it as it's happening. We're talking about posting photos online, getting it out there. So we're starting. This is just the first year, and I'm not stopping. Okay. We're going to continue to grow and continue to be important, because this has been forgotten for the last, 10 and 8 years. And I'm not going to let the hard work that the individuals did to create Jewish Heritage Month, we're not going to be pushed aside. We're going to come to the forefront. And maybe this will galvanize for other Jewish Canadian events to take place across Canada. That would be fantastic. As you said, I'm a one-man show. It's going to take others as well. And I'm not done. There's a lot of crown government agencies that have really dismissed or forgotten about Canadian Jewish Heritage Month for whatever reason. I'm going to be on them next year to make sure that they acknowledge it. And I have some ideas on how to make it happen.
I mean, I think that's an amazing effort that you did. You should be kol hakavod for everything you've done, all the late night emails. But I want to just ask two more questions. I've seen Jewish Heritage Month, a beautiful display, for example, in a local school near me called Crosby Heights. The principal happens to be Jewish, but the population of the school is not. And it was such a great, they even had PJ library books, they had menorah, they had a Seder plate. And I was like, why? But I was so happy. The feeling I got walking into that school was, I can't even describe it. When you saw the pictures that people were sending to you overnight from Halifax all the way to Niagara Falls, watching it live, describe what that meant to you, how you experienced that.
I'm a very emotional person, as my wife and kids would tell you.
I've seen you cry before.
Yeah, I cry a lot. It was very emotional. It was emotional because of everything going on in our country. It was very emotional, because it shouldn't be so hard to do. It was emotional because both my parents aren't around anymore. My mom was a Holocaust survivor. My dad was instrumental in building Canada, as so many other Jewish Canadians have been. And I saw them as I was watching the falls with my son online and my daughter and my wife. Yeah, it's going to sound corny, but I saw them kind of smiling. And so that it got me a little bit teary-eyed and emotional about it. I went to a antisemitism conference on the weekend, and something that came out very clearly was what these Jew haters want is they want us to hide our identity. They want us to hide our Star of David. They want us to kind of be nervous about doing things, et cetera, wherever that's coming from, because the next generation, okay, is being taught to basically hide and be quiet. And eventually, our Jewish community is going to struggle if that's the case. And by the lighting, we're sending a message. We're here. We're not hiding who we are, and we're proud of it. And screw all you who think we have not built this country and not giving us the respect. We deserve it, as any other group does. That's what makes Canada special. You eliminate what we have contributed, you have a problem. That's not what Canada is about or should be about.
So you talked about some of the buildings and some of the government departments. Can you just review one thing that still sticks that
Canadian War Museum was great. They were fantastic. So, sent them a few emails, and they did it. They have not acknowledged. It was the first time that they do a lot of work celebrating Jewish achievements, etc. But this was the first time for Canadian Jewish Heritage Month that they actually War Museum acknowledged Canadian Jewish Heritage Month, and kudos to them. We have to
how
say
did they do it?
You would know this better than me. I forget his name. Barney
Danson.
Danson, that's right. They acknowledged him as a great Canadian Jewish war hero.
Oh, yeah, on their social media.
On their social media
So
sites.
Barney Danson was Minister of Defense. He was a Toronto war hero, lost an eye, invasion of D-Day, and came back to become a Canadian statesman. And that's great.
Yeah. It was great.
The theater in the War Museum, the Barney Danson Theater, it's still there.
That's right.
So,
that's right. I've been there.
Right.
When Prime Minister Carney took out his little toy figure for the War of 1812 in some speech and talked about, Americans invading Canada, etc., and how they fought back, and that was our War of Independence. He doesn't know the history. He doesn't know it because, I'll tell you, the Jewish community, Jewish Canadians played a vital role in that War of 1812. And without
spoiler alert for your movie, which we'll have you back to talk a bit
we'll talk
about it
that
in there when it's ready to be in our show. If people want to help you or get in touch with you to do more for next year, I mean, you said you want 30 next year, but I bet we can double that.
That would be great.
And you want blue and white? Or you'll
blue.
take anything?
It's blue. It's blue because blue and white. It goes to
political.
It goes to our beautiful country. It goes to Israel, right? So
right.
I didn't want to.
But they won't. Yeah,
they won't. They probably won't. But
so why blue for Jewish Heritage Month? Because of the talus color of the thread.
Blue is a color that's always identified with the Jewish people. I was going to do blue and red, but that's too American. Blue, red, and white. So I felt blue was the appropriate color that identifies with being Jewish. Ironically, small thing is that I know it's a long shot, but I emailed, you're going to laugh, Sesame Street, because they did something about American Heritage Month. And I said, our
American Jewish Heritage, and she got so much hate too.
She did, American Jewish Heritage Month. So is there anything that you guys can do to maybe next year acknowledge Canadian Jewish Heritage Month? I know it's slim to none, but got to try.
So proud of what you did. Good for you.
Thank you. And thanks for everything that you do as well.
Thanks so much for being with us on the CJN's North Star. Good to see you. And that's what Jewish Canada sounded like for this episode of North Star. Made possible thanks to the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Now, Pearl's campaign wasn't the only effort marking Jewish Heritage Month, which ends this weekend. The Governor General and other politicians posted things on their social media. Schools, government departments, and municipalities have hosted events or proclamations or educational programs. And let's give a special shout out to the town of Collingwood, Ontario, which hosted 6 separate events, including a flag raising and a week-long illumination of its clock tower. North Star was produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman and Izzy Hellenchild. Michael Freeman's our executive producer, and Alicia Richler is the editorial director of the CJN. If you want to help Len broaden his campaign for next year, write to us at info@thecjn.ca. Thanks for listening.